Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Diptarup Ghosh Dastidar and I'm an assistant professor in the Amity School of Languages, Amity University, Chhattisgarh. And this is the final lecture, the final video session on Lotos-Eaters, where we'll be finishing off with the Choric Songs. That is the second part of the poem. The first part being the introductory session, where the mariners and Ulysses, they come to this island of the Lotos-Eaters and they are offered the fruit of lotus. Now, when they eat the fruit of lotus, some of them, they get intoxicated and they sit on the sand and they start singing a song. This song is the second part of the poem. Now, this song is in 8 stanzas. So there are, in the Choric song, there are 8 Choric songs in 8 parts, and of which the first 4 parts we have discussed in the earlier video. And in this video, we are going to discuss the last 4 parts. Now, before I move on to the last 4 parts, there is one thing that I missed in the last video, in the 4th stanza. I missed out on a very important figure of speech. So I'll just go on to that. The line which says, "Let us alone, let us alone, let us alone." So, let us alone, time driveth onward fast. So, time is driving fast, and in a little while, our lips are dumb. After some point of time, our lips will be dumb, meaning we will die. All things are taken from us. Let us alone. What is it that will last? What is there anything that lasts? Everything is transient. Transient means it will not last. All things are taken from us and become portions and parcels of the dreadful past. A beautiful phrase. Portions and parcels. Now, I have talked about this before, that how after Shakespeare, Tennyson is the most quoted poet of all time, at least according to the Oxford Book of Quotations. And portions and parcels is one of those very famous phrases that we have taken from Tennyson. It means what we today know as the part and parcel of our life, right? The portion and parcel of our life. So the portion and parcel taken from Tennyson, people. So everything has become, all of the things that have been taken from us, they have become portions and parcels of our dreadful past. Let us alone. What pleasure can we have to war with evil? Is there any peace? Let us just rest here. Give us rest or death, dark death or dreamful ease. So when you dream, you are eased. What is interesting here is the repetition of, now repetitions we will have. I have told you about why repetitions are necessary here and what is the meaning of these repetitions. Simply that there could be a lot of meanings, but simply that they are so lazy that they cannot come up with new adjectives. But here the case is a little bit different. The poetic form that has been used here, the figure of speech, it is called anaphora. So what happens in an anaphora? When the beginning of a line, let us say here, let us alone, let us alone. When the beginning of a line, this is repeated one after another, that is called anaphora. When something is repeated in the beginning of the line, one after another. So, let us alone, what is it that will last? Let us alone, what pleasure can we have? Let us alone, time driveth onward fast. So, time driveth onward fast comes first. But anyways, so you understand, this is called a anaphora. And since it came on my mouth, what happens when this same phrase or a very similar phrase like this does not repeat in the beginning of a line, but it repeats in the ending of a line? Like, today we will live. For our country we will live. For our souls we will live. See, we will live, we will live, we will live. It is repeated, but not in the beginning of the line, but in the ending of the line. This, my friends, is known as cataphora. So now you know anaphora and you know cataphora as well. So let's move on. Now we'll move on to the fifth stanza, which says, how lovely it would be to sleep and dream of old days. So till now, they have only been ranting about how some of the other species like plants and fruits, they are so lucky. Birds, they are so lucky. But we human beings at the top of everything else, we are not lucky. We have to toil, we have to labor, we have to work, and we do not have rest. Now, they say how lovely it would be to sleep and dream of old days. So, nostalgia is an amazing experience, isn't it? Nostalgia is something which can make you sit in one spot for a long time and you could just keep ruminating over your past, be it good or be it bad. So, let's read the fifth stanza. It goes like, how sweet it were, hearing that downward stream with half-shut eyes, ever to seem falling asleep in a half-dream. So do you see, over here again, we have an assonance. An assonance in which format? See, look at the sound, and then there's an at the end of it. So it's a mixture of an assonance and an alliteration, because you get an sound and before that an e sound. Let's read this part once again and you'll see. How sweet it were, hearing the downward stream with half-shut eyes, ever to seem falling asleep in a half-dream, to dream and dream like yonder amber light. So you see, this e sound is coming so much that this repetition of vowel sounds, this is known as assonance. So we have seen assonance a lot in Tennyson's poetry, and therefore we can say for sure that Tennyson uses assonance a lot. Tennyson is a sound engineer in a way, because his poems, we have discussed before, are very sonorous, and he uses assonance a lot in his poetry. So how sweet it were, hearing the downward stream. You're just sitting over there and just listening to the music. We have talked about the music in the first Choric song, right? The beautiful music that falls softer than everything else. Now, how sweet it were, hearing this downward stream with half-shut eyes. So remember the half-shut eyes after being intoxicated. Ever to seem falling asleep in a dream. It seems as if you are falling asleep even in a dream. So look at how complicated this dream itself is. So you go to sleep and you have a dream. And in that dream, you're going to sleep where you will have another dream. And maybe in that dream, you'll have another dream. So it's a lot like the movie Inception, isn't it? But anyways, we'll not talk about Inception. We'll talk about how this laziness has taken them away from reality. The voices are distant. They cannot hear their friends. They cannot hear anything else, but they can only hear music from their heartbeats, from everything else around them. And it seems as if they are in a dream. And they want to dream and dream like yonder amber light, which will not leave the mere bush on the height. So there is a light. So the sunset. The sun is still setting, remember. So time has stopped. Time is not moving. And the sun is not setting. Sun is still there. It's still about sunset and the moon is on the other side. It's a twilight time, the perfect time for magic to happen. So to dream and dream like yonder amber light, which will not leave the mere bush on the height. It seems as if the mere bush on the height is always in the light, and the light does not want to leave the mere bush. So why does it happen that on the height there is maybe a mere bush, and here is the sun. Sun is going down. Earlier the sun was here somewhere, and now there is light on the mere bush, but there will always be light because the sun is not going down. It is in the same space. So these are things that you can imagine. You see, visual imagery, word paintings. That is what poetry does. So how sweet it were, hearing the downward stream with half-shut eyes, ever to seem falling asleep in a half-dream, to dream and dream like yonder amber light, which will not leave the mere bush on the height, to hear each other's whispered speech, eating the lotus day by day. It's as if, it's so nice, right? We would just sit here and eat lotus day after day, and we'll just whisper into each other's ears about our old days gone by. This is like a perfect stoner's paradise. It is a perfect intoxicated paradise. You could just get high and do what you want. That's what life is, isn't it? And that is what these mariners are suggesting. And remember, this is not what the mariners say, it is the lotos in the mariners saying this. So, to hear each other's whispered speech, eating the lotus day by day, to watch the crisping ripples on the beach, the crisping ripples on the beach. Now, see, crisping is a sound. Crisping is onomatopoeic in nature. What is onomatopoeic? So what is onomatopoeia? It is the use of sounds. The spelling gets quite complicated at times, but anyways, just check the spelling once. So onomatopoeia means the use of sounds or use of words like tring tring or s, words like which create an effect of sound in your mind. So crisping is basically an onomatopoeic words, which means a crisping sound, a crispy sound. And what is the crispy sound? The crisping ripples on the beach. So the ripples are floating on the beach, and there is a crispy sound coming up from there. But sound is something that you hear. And here it says to watch the crisping ripples, the sense of sight and the sense of sound, they are all intermingled, because the experience they are having, it is a holistic experience in which everything seems to be the same. Death is the same as resting, as dream, just like watching is the same as hearing. So they maybe watched a person and they would say, I heard his voice. Makes sense. They heard a bird and they say, I looked at the bird. Come on, they are high. That's what they'll do. They are intoxicated. They don't know what they're saying. So let's move on. To watch the crisping ripples on the beach and tender curving lines of creamy spray. So the curving lines of creamy spray on the beach. You know, creamy spray means the foam. So when the waves, they strike the land, there is a lot of foam. That foam is called the creamy spray. Another good example of periphrasis. So you'll find a lot of periphrasis in poetry, people, because that's what poetry is. Poetry does not let you directly tell the word. Now it does. In modern poetry, in contemporary poetry, you have like direct references, but earlier on, poetry meant using roundabout ways of saying the same thing. So anyways, to lend our hearts and spirits wholly to the influence of mild-minded melancholy. To lend our hearts, now when we are sitting here having the lotus and enjoying the view, well, how lovely it would be to sleep and dream, right? So they want to go under the influence of mild-minded melancholy. Do you remember mild-minded melancholic Lotos-Eaters? So the Lotos-Eaters were mild-eyed and melancholic. Now they have become mild-minded and melancholic. Melancholic means sad, and you would notice that mild-minded melancholy is actually the ma sound. It's an alliteration. So the ma sound is repeating itself. So to lend our hearts and spirits solely to the influence of mild-minded melancholy, to muse and brood and live again in memory. To just muse and brood. So brood means to think, muse means to think. To think about what? To think about the memory that you have with those old faces of our infancy. Now this is interesting. Old faces of our infancy. It could mean two things. It could mean old faces of our infancy, meaning when we were infant, when we were a little young, we remember some old faces from the time. That is, the people whom we remember are old, or the people whom we remember, it's from a time that is old. So 5 years back or 10 years back, now we don't even remember what has happened. So okay, one interesting thing is that the epic Iliad, it takes place after 10 years of the war. So after 10 years of the Trojan War, the Trojan War, it took a lot of time to finally end. So the Iliad episode, it happens after 10 years of the battle, I mean, the battle has been going on for 10 years, and on the 10th year, Iliad happens. So it's a long time. They have not seen their family for maybe 20 years, 25 years. It's a long time. So with those old faces of our infancy heaped over with a mound of grass. So again, the mound of grass reminds you of a grave. So maybe these old faces might be old people who are dead now. Okay, two handful of white dust shut in an urn of brass. What is this two handful of white dust? It is the ash. The after they are, okay, now this is interesting. People, Christians are burned. Christians are cremated. We know this, but these were Greeks, and Tennyson was pretty much learned in what the Greeks did, Greek culture. Greeks, it seems, were burned. Because if they were not burned, then how will we have ash? You cannot have ash. The very idea of a dead person being in an urn of brass. So urn means a container, lota in Hindi. And this container is made of brass, which has what? Which has white dust in it. Now what is white dust? White dust is ash. How can you have ash if the bodies are not burned? So here, see, in a very small line, we get to know about the culture itself. They used to burn their deads, the Greeks. Unlike Christians, Tennyson is a Christian, who cremate their dead. This shows how learned Tennyson was when he wrote this, and he was hardly what, in his 20s when he wrote this poem. It was written in 1829, around in 1829. So he was quite young when he wrote this, and he knew about these cultures. And that is what's interesting about poetry, people. You get to know about the life of a person just by reading what they have written. So let's move on to the sixth stanza, which says, "Do our wives and children ever remember us? So many problems in Ithaca, let's just stay here instead." Now that they have thought about it's better to just stay here and think about the old memories, now they come to the point. Talking of old memories, do our wives remember us? What is the point? There are so many problems in Ithaca. Why go to Ithaca? Let there be problems. We'll stay here. We'll enjoy here. So let's read this. Dear is the memory of our wedded lives, and dear the last embraces of our wives. So they do remember a little bit of their wedded lives and their last embraces from their wives and their warm tears. So they still remember that the tears were warm, but all had suffered change. But they feel that everything has changed now. For surely now our household hearths are cold. Hearth means fireplace. And what they mean to say is that by now they have stopped waiting. The idea of a home, which happens because a husband, a wife and a child, they all stay together, that idea of a home is not present, and therefore the hearth itself has died out. By now they have forgotten us. These are reasons why they want to go back home. The mariners want to go back home because they know their wives are waiting for them, their children are waiting. But deep inside them, there is a thought. What if our wives have forgotten us? What if our children don't even know us? They don't even know they have a father. These are some deep buried thoughts which the Lotos is helping them to come up with. So the Lotos is actually reminding them of their subconscious. We have discussed this in an earlier video, that how the Lotos is a catalyst to their subconscious thoughts, and it is actually making these thoughts come out. Now they say that, but all had suffered change, for surely now our household hearths are cold. Our sons inherit us. So our sons have become older, and now whatever we would have been, our sons are. Our looks are strange. Maybe they will not recognize us. We'll go there and they'll be like, "Who are you? Do I know you? Do we know you? No. He didn't have a beard. You have a beard. Impossible." Okay, no, his beard was black, your beard is white, impossible. I don't know. I'm just saying that these mariners had. Let's move on. And he says that, and we should come like ghosts to trouble joy. They imagine that the family members, they must be living in joy, and when they come, they'll come like ghosts who are not expected over there. Or else the island princes overbold have eat our substance, and the minstrel sings before them the 10 years war in Troy. See, or else the island princes overbold have eat our substance. So the island princes, the people who are over there ruling in the island of Ithaca. Now this island is not the island of Lotos-Eaters. This island here is the island of Ithaca. So maybe the island princes, they have eat our substance. So they have talked so much about us, or they have just gotten rid of us. They have forgotten us in a way. And the minstrel sings before them of the 10 years war in Troy. The minstrel is someone who is a court singer. Now this court singer is supposedly singing to them the 10 years war. These are thoughts that are coming in their mind, that the minstrel is singing the 10 years war in Troy. Now we know that the war in Troy was 10 years. And our great deeds as half forgotten things. Fear that their great deeds will be but half forgotten things. These are real fears, my friends. You have done something so big. Will your children remember it? Will your grandchildren remember it? Is there confusion in the little isle? Now they ask the question that there are so many problems in Ithaca. Is there confusion in the little isle? Let what is broken so remain. So what is broken, let it be broken. The gods are hard to reconcile. It is hard to settle order once again. So it's difficult to come at terms with the gods. It is hard to settle order once again. There is, see, there's a, italics in is. There is confusion worse than death. So confusion, which is even worse than death. Death is better. So let us die here instead, right? Trouble on pain. Trouble on trouble, pain on pain. So more troubles, more pains, long labor unto aged breath, sore task, long labor. So if we go to our island, what will we face? Even more work and more work unto aged breath, until we are old, until our breath is aged. See, this is again transferred epithet. Aged breath, transferred epithet. We are aged, not our breath, but well, here the breath, or maybe better, this might be a transferred epithet, or this might be an idea of synecdoche. Both work. Sometimes, we have discussed this before, how two rhetorical devices can happen at the same time. So it might be a synecdoche where the breath stands for us. The breath is a part of our being, and in that way, when we say aged breath, we mean aged us. Long labor unto the aged life that we have, sore tasks to hearts worn out by many wars, and eyes grown dim with gazing on the pilot stars. And there is so much trouble when if we leave this island and we go back on the boat, what will we face? We will have to face this never-ending journey on the seas, and our eyes will grow dim by gazing on the pilot stars. What is a pilot star? We have discussed how the Greeks used to figure out the directions in the sky, and the directions about north, east, west, and south by using the stars, because they didn't have compass. So the pilot stars are the stars which would guide them towards their destination. So that is the sixth part. Now, the seventh stanza goes on to say that how tempting is this place to make a final rest. So it discusses this place, it describes this place as a very tempting place. Let's read this. But propped on beds of amaranth and moly, how sweet while warm airs lull us blowing lowly. So, propped, kept on beds of amaranth, which is a flower, and moly. So amaranth, moly, these are all flowers, very beautiful smelling flowers. How sweet, with half dropped eyelids still. Now see, between this, if there's anything in brackets, we call it a parenthesis, right? Something which complements the sentence. So let's say an example of a parenthesis would be, I'll just write it down here. parenthesis would be I am going there, doesn't matter where, today. So the sentence is I am going there today, but doesn't matter where complements that sentence. It is not required. You can just read it without it, but it complements it. So just like that over here, how sweet, while warm airs lull us, blowing lowly, with half-dropped eyelids still, beneath a heaven dark and holy. So you're looking at, now they're lying down and they're looking up at the sky, and they see the heaven that is dark and holy. It is as holy and enchanted as beneath a waning moon was haunted by a demon, waiting for her demon lover. Reminds me of Kubla Khan, the poem by Coleridge. Very similar scene where the sky is mystic, the sky is holy. To watch the long bright river drawing slowly his waters. So you see, holy, slowly, there is a rhyme, but it is very uneven in these parts. To watch the long bright river drawing slowly his waters from the purple hill. So the long bright river is drawing slowly, it is going very slowly, his waters from the purple hill, to hear the dewy echoes calling from cave to cave through the thick twined vine. This is completely imagination. The hill seems purple and there are voices calling from cave to cave, in between caves, and there are vines running from here and there, to watch the emerald colored water falling. So the hill is purple colored, the water is emerald color, maybe the sky would be emerald, and the reason the water would be emerald, through many a woven acanthus wreath divine. So the acanthus plants and flowers, they are all like vines, they are around, they are just spread around, only to hear and see the far off sparkling brine. We'll just sit here or sleep here and we'll just hear and see. So like we have discussed before, hearing and sight, everything has become confused, only to hear and see the far off sparkling brine, only to hear were sweet. Okay, hear and see. First they thought, let's hear and see, and now only hear is okay. We don't need to see. We'll just sit here, eat lotus, and hear the sounds. We don't have to see. We'll just simply keep our eyes closed and hear the sounds. That is life. That is what we want to do in life. We just want to sit together, 5 people in a circle, eat some lotus and listen to some music that's going around. Proper psychedelia, people. But anyways, stretched out beneath the pine. So there's a pine tree, and beneath a pine tree, that's a nice thing, right? Beneath a pine tree, you are simply just lying down and enjoying the scene. So how tempting this place is. And now the last stanza. This is big, so we'll just rush through it. But the crux is that lotus is everywhere here. In this island, you can find lotus everywhere. And lotus is all that we need. The only thing we need is lotus. We have lots of lotus over here. Let's give up all the wandering and finally rest. This is the best place in the world. Ithaca, no one needs it. Troy, worthless. Let's sit here. Lotos-Eaters, the land of Lotos-Eaters, best. We have the fruit that we want. Let's read this part. The lotus blooms below the barren peak. The lotus blows by every winding creek. The lotus is everywhere, you see. It blooms and blows below the barren peak, and in every winding creek. It's under the alley, in every single valley. All day the wind breathes low with mellower tone. It's as if the wind is breathing low, personification, with mellower tone. Through every hollow cave and alley, lone round and round the spicy downs, the yellow lotus dust is blown. So you see, round and round the spicy downs, here you have internal rhyming. Internal rhyming is also something that Tennyson does a lot. Internal rhyming. Within a line, you have rhymes. So people, we are learning a lot a lot. I know that these sessions are becoming a little longer, but we are getting to learn a lot of figures of speech. So internal rhyme and structural issues. So the lotus blooms beyond the barren peak, the lotus blows by the winding creek, all day the wind breathes low and the mellower tone, through every hollow cave and alley lone, round and round the spicy downs, the yellow lotus dust is blown. So there is lotus dust. The lotus is not just a fruit, you have the dust blowing everywhere. We have had enough of action and of motion. Lot of action we have had, lot of motion, no more motion, please, please. Roll to starboard, roll to larboard. Now see, starboard, larboard, these are parts of a boat. I will not draw a boat again because it will become an Aladdin's lamp. But starboard is one side of the boat, larboard is the other side of the boat. So we have sometimes gone starboard, sometimes larboard. When the surge was seething free, surge means the waves were pushing us here and there, we moved so much action, so much motion. Please, we don't want any more. Let us swear an oath where the wallowing monster spouted his foam fountains in the sea. So the wallowing monster is the sea. Again, another amazing example of periphrasis. Periphrasis, where the wallowing monster, the monster which wallows, makes a sound, is the sea. Spouted his foam fountains in the sea. And okay, well, the wallowing monster could also be the monsters that they faced. Now, Ulysses and his crew, they have faced a lot of monsters, the kraken and so many other monsters, and these could be the sea monsters that they faced also. So not a periphrasis in that case. Well, let us swear an oath and keep it with an equal mind. What do they do now? Now they swear an oath. What is this oath? Let's see. In the hollow lotus land, to live and lie reclined on the hills like gods together, careless of mankind. I think these two lines are worth quoting. That in the hollow lotus land, we want to live and to lie reclined. We'll live and we'll sleep here all together like gods. We'll be careless of mankind. So this is how the Greeks thought of the gods, because the gods even battled with man. The gods indulged in the matters of man and they did not care who lost or who won. So the gods were careless of mankind. Or maybe the gods are careless now in the Victorian age. Well, this is where it's connected. Science is growing and the gods don't matter anymore, and the question of God is being questioned a lot. The idea of God is being questioned a lot. So we'll be like gods together, careless of mankind, for they lie beside the nectar and the bolts are hurled far below them in the valleys and the clouds are lightly curled. So you see how beautiful a place is where the gods live. They have nectar and there are valleys and the clouds are curled around them. Round their golden houses, there are golden houses for the gods. We'll have them girdled with the gleaming world. So these are promises of the devil. You see, these are promises of a utopian landscape. When they actually are in the landscape, they don't realize that it is not reality. When they'll realize that this utopia is actually not reality, they'll start being aware of the dystopia of the situation. Okay, so where the smile is secret, looking over wasted lands, blight and famine, plague and earthquake, roaring deeps and fiery sands, clanging fights and flaming towns and sinking ships and praying hands. These are all the problems of the real world. But in the land of Lotos-Eaters, you don't have these problems because they have all faded away. But they smile, they find a music centered in doleful song. Who is they? The gods. The gods, they are not worried about praying hands about these things. And we'll be like gods. We'll just enjoy the fruit of lotus. That's what we are. So when we get high, we are like gods. That's what the mariners suggest. But they smile, they find a music centered in a doleful song, steaming up a lamentation and an ancient tale of wrong. They can listen to a story being told, like a tale, a little meaning, though the words are strong. Now the story itself doesn't have meaning because, well, it is the people who are making meaning of the story, but it just sounds Good, because the words are strong. Chanted from an ill-used race of men that cleave the soil. Now this will go back to the savage race in Ulysses, that he'll say later. Chanted from an ill-used race of men that cleave the soil, sow the seed and reap the harvest with enduring toil. Now these people, the only thing that they know is how to work, how to labor, how to toil. Storing yearly little use of wheat and wine and oil. They have to store wheat, store wine, store oil every year so that they can eat and so that they can feed the others. We don't have any worries here. We have Lotos. Lotos is all that we need. So till they perish and they suffer. So they keep storing, these people, these foolish people out there, they keep storing. This is the song. The song is still going on. They are saying that the people in Ithaca, they keep storing and they are just they suffer so much. Some, it is whispered, down in hell suffer endless anguish. Now there are some who go to hell and then they suffer anguish in hell. Others in Elysian valleys dwell. We have known about Elysium. So the Elysium are Elysian valleys. They are the happy isles, the places where the brave people go after they die, according to Greeks. Resting, and we are almost towards the end, people. Resting weary limbs at last on beds of asphodel. So if anyone goes to Elysium, then they rest their limbs, their hands and their feet. Limbs means hand and feet. So they rest their body on beds of asphodel. So again, a very soft bed it would be, because asphodels are plants. They are like flowers of a plant which is soft, and it dignifies whoever sleeps on it, whoever is laying down on it. Surely, surely slumber is more sweet than toil. Now they are of the conclusion, they have got into the conclusion that slumber, sleep, is better than toil, much better than labor. The shore than labor in the deep mid-ocean. The shore where they are sitting and lying down right now, it is much better than the deep mid-ocean. Wind and wave and roar. It's much better than the wind, the wave and the roar. So you see, there's this utilization of words, of the proper words over here, where now they are so conclusive that they have to stay in this place. They do not want anything of the outer world. They are decided. Oh, rest ye, brother mariners. Oh, you brothers, ye means you. Oh, rest ye, you brother mariners, we will not wander more. So they decide, and that's the conclusion, that we will finally rest. We will not wander more. This is where the poem ends, people. After this, what happens is Ulysses figures out that these people are intoxicated. He ties them up in a rope and he takes them to the boat. They have to go with him, well, and they sail out of the land of Lotos-Eaters. But what has Tennyson done here? What Tennyson has done is that he has imagined this exchange between the mariners and the Lotos-Eaters, and what the mariners would think when they would eat the lotos. How would they perceive the world? What would their idea of the world be? So in that way, this poem is extremely enlightening, and I hope that we have been able to discuss this quite in detail along with the figures of speech and everything. And as usual, if you have any issues, any problems, any questions, if there is anything that you did not understand in my speech, feel free to ask in the comment section down below. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.